There's a moment, usually small, quiet, and almost forgettable, when someone says something or doesn't say something that your heart kind of drops a little bit. Maybe their tone shifts, their face tightens a little bit, they take longer to reply to your text. Maybe it's your kid that snaps at you, or your spouse sounds distant, your friendship seems off, and instantly you feel it in your chest. Did I do something wrong? If that's familiar, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why you take things personally and how to break that pattern without becoming detached or uncaring. You're going to learn how to interpret people's reactions accurately. You're going to learn how to separate what's about you from what isn't. And if you stick with me, you'll be able to move through relationships with clarity, confidence, and presence. I promise this will help your marriage, your friendships, your parenting, and even your faith. So here's the truth. When you take things personally, you live in a constant state of emotional monitoring, if you will, scanning for signs you hurt someone or disappointed someone or lost connection with someone. And the worst part is most of the time, what you're absorbing has nothing to do with you. But when personalization becomes a reflex, everything feels like it becomes about you. A short tone, a delayed text, a sigh, a quiet moment, a child's meltdown, a friend's distant, a spouse's distraction. You end up carrying blame for things that aren't your fault and responsibility for emotions that aren't yours to take responsibility for. It exhausts your heart, it drains your confidence, and it actually shapes your identity. It even distorts your relationships. And eventually, it starts to affect your faith. Now, God must be disappointed with me too. And this is the cycle we're going to break today. I've walked with people, many people, parents, spouses, leaders, men, women, who all wrestle with the same internal story. If someone seems off, I must be the reason. It's not weakness or immaturity. It might not even be insecurity. It's conditioning. And once you understand where it comes from, you can finally loosen the grips it has on your heart. Let me show you what I mean. It started in the kitchen this morning. Nothing dramatic, just a normal morning where everything felt slightly hurried. We all have those days. They were standing by the counter, pouring coffee, and said something simple to their spouse. Hey, how'd you sleep last night? The spouse, distracted and groggy, answered quickly, fine. Not angry, not upset, just tired. But the tone was flat enough that something inside intensified. Are they upset with me? Did I say something wrong last night? Did I do something? Is something off? The spouse had already moved on, but internally, the personalization had already begun. And later that afternoon, their kid, usually easygoing, snapped over something small. Change of plans, a missing toy, a request they didn't want to hear. They yelled, stormed off, shut their bedroom door. And even though every parent knows this happens, that same tightening hit again. Why do they react like that to me? Am I failing as a parent? Did I handle that wrong? And instead of seeing their kid as just having a bad day or dealing with their own emotions, they saw a reflection of their own inadequacy. I still struggle with this when we're dealing with our kids sometimes. We have 4 kids, all from teens down to 9, and I have to constantly remind myself of this exact dynamic. See, it wasn't about them, but it felt like it was. And that evening, they text a friend, someone close, someone they trusted. Hey, just checking in. How are you? Silence. Hours passed. No response. Their logical brain knew that the friend was probably just busy, but the emotional reflex, that inner dialogue, began to ask, man, did I bother them? Are they pulling away? Why are they ghosting me? Did I say something wrong last time we talked? See, these 3 moments with 3 different relationships all have one single theme. Everything felt personal, even when nothing actually was. And as that couple sat on the couch that night, the thought finally surfaced. Why does every shift in someone else's mood feel like it's my fault? They didn't say it out loud, but they felt it deeply. In the same way you've probably felt it too in your life. And this is what it's like to walk through the world believing other people's emotions and responses are commentaries on your value. And that's where the work begins. See, most people who take things personally don't choose it. They don't even enjoy it, but their nervous system reacts faster than their logic can catch up. If you've ever wondered why do small things bother me so much, this is why. We refer to these as 10-2 reactions. Events or circumstances that should be a 2 are now a 10. And there are 4 major roots behind taking things personal. And once you see them, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about, and you'll understand yourself so much better. The first is your brain fills in the blanks with threat, not neutrality. Humans desire meaning. We're meaning makers, if you will. When someone's tone shifts, they pull back. When they don't respond, your brain instantly searches for an explanation, for the meaning or the why behind it. And the mind rarely chooses neutral. When something doesn't make sense, your mind fills the gap with what's internally familiar. I must have upset them. I must have said something wrong. They're annoyed with me. They're disappointed. This is because the brain is wired to prioritize potential danger over peace. A neutral explanation won't protect you. A negative one might, and this is why negative news sells at a far higher rate than positive news, because we feel safe when we can predict, even if it's danger. So the brain leans negative because your biology is trying to keep you safe by making sense of the situation. And this happens a million times a day. It's a threat response mechanism. Your brain is trying to interpret uncertainty before uncertainty interprets you. And the second root behind taking things personally is you learned early on that other people's moods and responses were your responsibility. This is one of the biggest ones I deal with in counseling, and one of the hardest to see in yourself. Even in good homes, kids often learn if someone's upset, fix it. If someone withdraws, pull them back. If there's tension, your job is to smooth it out. If someone looks disappointed, you caused it. So as an adult, you naturally assume emotional blame. A spouse is quiet, you must have done something wrong. A friend pulls away, you must have failed them in some way. A child snaps, you must be a bad parent. Coworker seems off that day, you must have upset them the day before. Nothing actually happened, but your past experiences shaped the reflex. Their emotional shift means something about me. Your heart learned to read rooms before it learned to read truth. And the third root is you confuse someone else's feelings or perception with your value. This is where spiritual guilt often sneaks in. Somewhere along the way, along your story, you learn that harmony equals worth. So when someone around you withdraws, or they snap, or they shut down, or delay responding to your message, when they seem distant, you don't see a person having things they're working through or needing to work through. You see a threat to your identity. Because if their feelings or opinion of you shifts, your worth feels like it shifts too. And this is why personalization hits so hard. You're not just misreading their mood, you're letting their mood redefine your value. That's why a disappointed tone almost always feels suffocating. It's why silence feels dangerous and creates insecurity. It's why frustration feels like failure oftentimes, and distance feels just like rejection. It's about identity, and we unknowingly place our value in the hands of other people. And then we get wrecked when we perceive they don't value us. And the fourth root is you fear disconnection more than you fear being wrong. See, many people don't take things personally because they crave attention. They take things personally because they crave connection. And losing connection feels terrifying because we're a tribal people. Feeling someone pull away feels like abandonment, even if it's subtle. A tone shift feels like relational rupture. It's not the moment itself, it's what the moment represents to your nervous system, to your mind, to your heart. Connection is threatened, so your mind jumps in and tries to solve the perceived problem. What did I do? How do I fix this? Did I cause it? How do I repair this? See, personalization is often an attempt to maintain connection, even at the cost of your peace. You blame yourself not because you're wrong, but because blame gives you the illusion of control. It gives you the answer to why, even if it's not a true answer. If it's your fault, you can fix it. If it's not your fault, you feel powerless. And sometimes powerlessness is more scary than guilt. See, there's this invisible pattern underneath it all, underneath all personalization. And it doesn't come from ego. It comes from emotional hyper-awareness. It comes from growing up in environments where tone mattered, where withdrawal mattered, where disappointment mattered, where emotional shifts carried weight. So now, as an adult, you scan for danger in normal interactions. You absorb emotions that aren't yours. This is why you find yourself apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You try to manage reactions you can't control. You take ownership of atmospheres you didn't create. And this is a learned pattern. But a pattern you can also unlearn. This is the part people never believe at first, that your nervous system can learn a new way to interpret people's reactions. Your mind can learn neutrality. It can learn patience and curiosity. Emotional boundaries is another one that it can learn. Confidence, perspective. You can become the kind of person who hears a short tone and stays grounded. And yes, this is a very difficult thing to do, but it can be done. You can be a person who sees delayed texts and stays calm inside. You can watch your child struggle without internalizing it and blaming yourself for it. You can notice a friend's distance without spiraling out of control. You can trust your marriage without assuming the worst. This isn't about becoming callous. It's about becoming sober-minded. Not less emotional, but less absorbent. Not self-protective, but actually self-aware. So how do you stop taking everything personal? Well, you start by reframing your mind and your heart. Taking things personally doesn't mean you're immature. It doesn't mean you're unspiritual. It doesn't even mean you don't trust God. It means your heart is tender. It means connection matters to you, and that's a good thing. We're designed by God to be connected. It means you want relationships to feel safe and honest, and that's the way God designed humanity in the garden. That's not a flaw. See, in Scripture, you see people misread tone, intention, silence. Even Jesus' disciples felt this way at times. But woven through the Bible is this quiet invitation. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to react. Guard your heart. Speak truth to yourself. Not because you should be colder, but because your heart was never meant to carry the perceived intention or emotional meaning of every moment of every person. And here's where the shift begins. Taking something personally often means we've forgotten who we are. Not in a shame-filled way, but in a human, honest, I've been carrying too much kind of way. Because when identity settles, interpretation changes. When you remember who you are, people's moods and responses stop feeling like mirrors. Here's a natural way to break the pattern. Think of these less like techniques and more like conversations with your own heart. Pause the story you're telling yourself. When someone's tone shifts, pause the story. When your child snaps, pause the story. When your friend goes silent, pause the story. Your mind doesn't wait for facts. It fills the uncertainty and insecurity with a story. But here's the truth. Most personalization happens before you even realizing you're personalizing it. So before assuming anything, just pause and ask, what story am I creating right now? This is part of taking your thoughts captive. It's like tapping the brakes on a downhill run. Even a 2-second pause can keep your heart from sprinting down a road that isn't real. The second is replace assumption with curiosity. Instead of taking offense, they're mad at me, I upset them, they must be disappointed. Try showing compassion. Things like, I wonder what's going on with them today. Or, there's probably something more happening that I can't see. Curiosity softens what assumption hardens. It creates emotional space, and most of the time, people's reaction aren't secret messages about you. They're reflections of their own insecurities and their own internal battles that they're fighting. Curiosity keeps you from climbing into their world and taking ownership of things that, never belong to you. My approach in counseling is to ask as many questions as possible and just listen. And the third is let people have their feelings without making them about you. See, you can love someone deeply without absorbing their emotions as judgments about your worth or value. If your spouse is quiet, that might be about them. If your child's melting down, maybe it's just about their own insecurities or their own sense of being overwhelmed. If your friend doesn't reply for hours, that's about their life, not your value. People you love will have off days. They'll be distracted. They'll be distant. Sometimes they'll be shorter than usual. They'll get overwhelmed, and that's okay. You don't need to turn every moment into an indictment on your identity. So let people have their struggles without making it about your sufficiency. And I think fourth is probably the most important. Remember your worth before entering a conversation. Personalization is basically emotional amnesia, forgetting your worth in the split second when someone acts differently. So here's something very practical. Before you walk into a room, before you respond to a text, before you start making assumptions that you did something wrong, take one breath and remind yourself, my value is not up for negotiation. This doesn't make you arrogant, it actually makes you grounded and secure. Because when your true worth is settled, you stop reading every emotional shift as evidence against yourself. You enter the moment as someone who knows, I'm deeply loved, I'm secure, I don't need to earn belonging. Not everything is about me. This is spiritual maturity wrapped up in emotional gentleness. One of the best things you can do for yourself is ask, did they actually say I upset them? Or am I imagining disappointment? Imagination is powerful, but it's also terrible at accuracy, especially when we're tired or stressed or oversensitive. Sometimes the reality is your spouse was tired, your kid was overwhelmed, your friend was busy, your coworker was distracted, your family member was preoccupied at the moment. And the minute wasn't about you at all. But personalization makes the fiction feel more believable than the truth. And the truth is, people's emotions are not your evaluation. And this entire shift comes down to one truth. Someone else's mood is not a report card on your worth. You aren't that easily defined. You're not shaped by every sigh, silence, text, delay, or moment of distance you experience. You're allowed to stay solid even when the emotions around you are not. And this isn't detachment, this is actually maturity. It's the ability to stay connected without losing yourself in the moment. So let's go back to that day. The spouse is in the kitchen, the kid in the hallway, the unanswered text from the friend. You walk into the kitchen again the next morning, same counter, same coffee, your spouse moving around quietly. Nothing dramatic happened, but something inside of you shifted. Instead of scanning the tone, you pause and ask internally, what story am I telling myself right now? Your spouse turned around, half smiling, still waking up, completely unaware that yesterday's tone ever caused a storm in your mind. And in that simple moment, the realization lands in you. Oh, this isn't about me. It wasn't detachment, it wasn't indifference, it was clarity. Later that afternoon, your kid hit another moment, snapped, cried, slammed the door, whatever it is. But this time, instead of letting the spiral take over of I'm failing, I'm messing this up as a parent, I caused this, you breathe and remember that my kid is dealing with their own emotions, not rejecting me. And something begins to soften inside of you. Because when you stop personalizing everything, you can meet people where they are, not where your fear imagines they are. So that evening, you check your phone, still no response from the friend, but instead of panic, instead of replaying your last conversation, instead of assuming you disappointed someone, you simply say, they're probably living their life. I hope they're okay. I wonder if they need anything. No drama, no blame, no internal collapse, just curiosity and peace. Of course, most of the time, hours later, your friend texts back, oh, sorry for the delay, bro. Crazy day. How you doing? Nothing was wrong. Nothing had ever been wrong. But the old version of you would have carried hours of unnecessary weight and insecurity. And that's the difference. Not everything is about us. And that's actually good news. So here's what I want you to hear clearly. You're not the emotional interpreter for the whole world. You're not responsible for decoding every silence. You're not the cause of every shift in a tone. You're not even the explanation for someone else's stress. You're not the reason why every atmosphere changes. You're allowed to let people have their own stories without dragging your identity into every scene. And that will actually be very freeing from you. People's reactions come from their own exhaustion, their own stress and fears, their own wounds, maybe just a lack of sleep, their own unseen battles, not because of your inadequacy. Your sensitivity isn't the problem. Your interpretation is. And that's something you can change without ever becoming hardened or detached. See, you become the healthiest version of you when you give others permission to be human, and the same permission you would want them to give you. This is where real freedom begins. You don't need to read minds anymore. You don't need to assume blame anymore or feel silence with fear. You don't need to treat every mood like a test that you're failing. You can be connected and still stay grounded in your value. You can care deeply without carrying emotional weight. And here's the identity piece. You are not defined by reactions around you. Let this sit. Your worth does not waver when someone is tired. Your value doesn't shrink when someone is distracted. Your identity doesn't quiver when someone else is stressed. Your belonging doesn't disappear when someone withdraws. You're steady and secure, not because you feel steady every day, but because your identity doesn't come from human approval. You're loved by God, shaped by grace, grounded in truth. And you're held by something bigger than silence or tone or distance. And when that settles inside of you, you stop living like everyone else's emotions are scoreboards for your value or your worth. And I lived this way for years, and it depleted me, it exhausted me, and I finally was able to break free of it. You walk into rooms with peace, you show up in relationships with confidence, you respond with curiosity instead of panic. You let go of interpretations that never belong to you. This is growth. This is what healing looks like. This is emotional maturity formed in spiritual security. So just keep moving toward it, one honest moment at a time. Hey, if this was helpful, pay it forward and share it with someone you know struggles with this. Check out my other videos on true identity. Stick around for more. We're just getting started.